Welcome everyone to Otakus and Geeks.com, the women of anime. My friends, we are back and this is episode 7. And I want to thank you all for all your support for the Women of Anime playlist. I have so much fun doing this, doing some deep dives, my views on some of these female characters, amazing female characters. And we're back with a whole new batch of 6. And today we're going to be kicking this off with Lynn Minmay from Macross, also known here in the States as Robotech. And I know some of you reached out to me. You were like, hey, you did Lisa Hayes. You can't not do Min Minmay. And I'm doing this by your request. So here we go. We're gonna be talking about Minmay. And let me just say this because I believe I touched on this on the Lisa Hayes episode, but I originally, 15-year-old Justin, 13-year-old Justin, I forgot what age I was introduced to Robotech, but I really wanted, when I was younger, I really wanted Minmay and Rick to be together. It was as I got older that I saw, okay, Lisa Hayes truly was the better fit. And that's because of the characterization of Lynn Minmay and Robotech. But if you watch Macross, which I will discuss in a little bit, you'll see that there's a little bit of a difference within her character, way more mature. But let's get into it. So let's talk a little bit about who is Lin Minmay. So let's get into it. Few characters in anime history have been as polarizing and influential as Lynn Minmay, the pop idol from Macross and its Western adaptation, Robotech. She's one of the first few anime idols, a character whose music and persona defined an entire war, bridging the gap between cultures and influencing generation of mecha and idol anime alike. But her portrayal in Macross and Robotech differs in subtle ways, but significant ways. So we're going to talk a little bit about her story, or relationships, and music, of course, and the impact that she had on both versions of the Macross saga. So who is Minmay? Minmay begins when we first meet her as a 15-year-old girl working at her aunt and uncle's restaurant in Macross City. And that is a civilian colony inside the massive spaceship, the SDF-1. She dreams of becoming a singer and an actress, but initially she's just an ordinary girl caught in extraordinary circumstances. With a war between humans and the alien group the Zentradi break out, Minmay becomes a symbol of hope for humanity. Her journey to stardom begins when she wins the Miss Macross contest, propelling her into the spotlight. As the Macross crew drifts further into space, her popularity soars, and she becomes the voice of the people, entertaining troops and civilians alike. However, her role takes on a much greater significance when it's discovered that music, something that the Centrati has never encountered before, has the power to disrupt their warlike nature. But singing, Minmay unwillingly becomes a weapon of cultural warfare. Her most famous song, Do You Remember Love, which is in the Macross movie, and We Will Win, which is in the Robotech series, turns the tide of the battle by emotionally overwhelming the Zentradi. Her voice becomes a symbol of peace, proving that humanity's culture, love, music, and emotion is more powerful than war itself. There's one thing that is for sure when it comes to Limit May is that she is definitely the symbol of hope. She inspires so many people aboard the SDF-1 just through her music and the ability just to connect with an audience. There's no doubt about it that one thing both versions of Macross and what Robotech did is really solidify Minmay as a star. But as you get more deeper and you're watching both versions, you find out there's a little bit more of different characterizations and why Minmay is so polarizing. That's mainly because the Robotech did it a different way and Macross did it a different way. So before we dive into a little bit of the relationships between her and Rick and her and Lisa Hayes and the impact of both of her musics, let's talk a little bit about the differences between the Macross version of Minmay and the Robotech version of Minmay. So there are some notable differences between Macross and Robotech when it comes to Minmay's characterization, and that's mainly due to the adaptations and changes made during Robotech's localization for Western audiences. So if we're going to talk about personality and characterization, in the original Macross series, Minmay is portrayed as this sweet, somewhat naive, idealistic pop singer who becomes an emotional anchor for the protagonist Hikaru, aka Rick Hunter. Her primary focus is her singing career, of course, but she also experiences significant personal growth, especially in her evolving relationship with Hikaru and the broader contents of the war. Now, when it comes to Robotech, she is still portrayed as a pop singer, but her character is often simplified and made to appear more one dimensional. The emotional depth seen in Macross is somewhat reduced in Robotech as the focus shifts more towards the action and war aspects, and Minmei's personal development is not really explored as much. And just in terms of her role in the story in Macross, she's very crucial to the series, not just as a love interest for Hikaru, but as that symbol of hope that I was talking about, and the morale for the human forces. Her songs become a form of psychological warfare against the Zentradi, with the idea that her music and culture can bring the gap between the two species. Her songs and growth as a singer and individual are central to the theme. In Robotech, she's also playing that same role, but it's more heavily altered to fit into the broader narrative of Robotech's larger saga, which spans multiple generations. While her songs still have an impact on the Zentradi, the focus shifts to military conflict and other characters, reducing her significance in comparisons to Macross. Now, in terms of the romantic relationships between her and Rick, her relationship with Rick in Macross is quite complex as it goes through many ups and downs. She is initially infatuated with him, but as the story progresses, their relationship is tested by the ongoing war and Minmei's personal growth. However, in Robotech, Minmei's relationship with Rick is much more pronounced as the central romantic storyline. The love triangle between Rick, Minmei, and Lisa, the more mature and more composed character, becomes a focal point, overshadowing other parts of the plot that were seen in Macross. Minmei's relationship with Rick is more dramatic and less nuanced compared to her relationship with Hikaru and Macross. And now, finally, let's talk about the musical impact, and then I'll talk a little bit about the development and growth of Minmay. So her musical impact in Macross is just it has to be part of the plot. It's integral to the plot, influencing not only the character's emotion but also serving as a tool for peace. Her songs are used strategically to appeal to the Zentradi and soften their aggression, creating a strong thematic connection between music and humanity's survival. While Robotech, Minmei's music still plays a significant role in Robotech, but the emphasis is less on the cultural importance and more on her being a symbol of the human spirit. The songs are still important for morale, but they don't carry that same thematic weight as it does in Macross. Of course, songs such as like "We Will Win" is definitely played throughout the Robotech saga. I mean, you have it in the Invid saga as well, with Lancer playing a little bit of singing his version of "We Will Win" as well. And of course, we have the character development in Macross. Minmay is developed and is a central aspect of her character. Over the course of the series, she matures from a somewhat shallow pop star into a more complex, aware individual influenced by the war and her friendship and relationship with Hikaru and others. In Robotech, Minmay does experience some character growth and development, feels more constrained by the broader focus of the Robotech saga. Unfortunately, her character arc doesn't dwell as deeply into her maturation as it does in Macross. And that's pretty much when you get the whole gist of it when it comes to Minmay. There's a little bit more differences here, like her final goodbye, for example. In Macross, Minmei's farewell to Hikaru is more melancholic and personal. She realizes the mistakes and leaves with grace. And Robotech, her goodbye is a bit more dramatic, exaggerated, reinforcing her more selfish portrayal. And that's the thing, too. In Robotech, she appears to be more selfish compared to Macross. If you're going to ask me which Minmay version is better and which one I prefer the Macross version. If you watch the Macross version, you can see why a lot of people will say, you know what? Yeah, she started off as this little naive girl, but when she grew up to be a full grown woman, you go, yeah, you know what? I like Minmay. I could see Rick actually marrying her as well. And yeah, I pretty much agree with that statement. Lynn Minmay and Robotech and Lynn Minmay and Macross are two different women. If you watch the film Macross, Do You Remember Love? That is the definitive, I would say, Minmay experience where you really get to see the characterization of Lynn Minmay, and that's the Minmay a lot of us really love and love to see, and just to see her growth. Now, if we talking about relationships between her and Rick Hunter, if you watch Do You Remember Love? It's way more different than how we saw her in the Robotech series. In the Robotech series, Mimei comes off as annoying, self-centered, selfish. There's various episodes too. If I could just think of one of the episodes, I would have to think of Sweet 16, the episode when Mimei turns 16 and Rick is giving her a gift, and she is just adamant about getting something from Rick. Or like there's this particular line that made me go, when Rick is actually about to give her the gift, she's like, "Oh, my birthday's not done yet, so you still have time to give me my gift." And I'm just like, "Oh my gosh." So there's really a tale of two cities when it comes to Lemon May, and you're like, okay, which one's the better version? I have to say the Macross version. So let's talk a little bit about her relationship with Rick Hunter, and then we're going to talk about the power of her songs. Who has the better songs here? Is it the Robotech or is it the Macross? So let's talk a little bit about. Okay, so her relationship with Rick Hunter in this is obviously the big love triangle in this. So in Robotech and in Macross, of course, Rick Hunter, Hikaru plays a big role. In Macross, Hikaru has a huge crush on her and he becomes infatuated with her after rescuing her early in the story. Their relationship is playful but one sided. Minmay enjoys Hikaru's company but is often oblivious to his deeper feelings. She flirts, teases, and leans on him for emotional support, but ultimately takes him for granted. As she becomes a superstar, their relationship becomes strained. Minmay enjoys the attention she receives from fans, but resents the pressures of fame. When Hikaru finally confesses his feelings, she's unable to reciprocate those feelings. And you can see a little bit of that as well in Robotech as well. And I'll say one of the key episodes where you really get to see Minmay's development and growth and just her dealing with the weight of being famous is the episode Season's Greetings, which is towards the end of the Macross saga. And this is actually my favorite episode of Robotech besides Farewell Big Brother, which is the death of Roy Fokker. And what I like about that particular episode with Season Greeting is that we really finally get to see Minmay mature and dealing with the weight of being famous and being the symbol of hope for all of humanity. What does that do to somebody like that? You start to question yourself. So, and that's something she starts to question. She starts to question her place in the world. In regards to her and Lisa Hayes, you see that Lisa, and I touched a lot of this on my Lisa Hayes episode, but I'll just reiterate a bit. You see that Lisa represents more maturity and true partnership, unlike Minmay, who constantly struggles with her identity and has to balance who she is and who the persona of Minmay, the pop idol, is. While Lisa is that dedicated officer with a strong sense of duty, and over time, Rick realizes that while Minmay was his fantasy, Lisa is the woman that truly understands who Rick is. And of course, in Robotech, you see Minmay is more selfish, very selfish, because she wants Rick to give up the service, to drop everything and just be with her. But Minmay not ever said that she was going to stop being a musician, an actress. She wasn't going to give up her career, but Rick had to give up his. And this is why so many of us hated Minmay characterization in Robotech. And even in Macross, there is a little bit of that selfishness as well. But in the end, and this is what makes Minmay kind of sad as well. In the end, Minmay's self-centered nature causes her to lose Rick. She realizes this too late that she loves him, and by then he's moved on. And you see that in both versions of Minmay. The final conversation where Minmay pleads with Rick to stay with her is one of the most heartbreaking moments in Macross. She leaves the series alone, a tragic figure whose fame cannot bring her happiness. And that's the thing about Minmay, especially when it comes to her relationship with Rick. Her self-centeredness cost her. she was so focused on herself, her fame, and everything else, and didn't realize who Rick really was as a person. And that's why when I grew up a little bit more, matured a little bit more, I realized also, just like many fans out there, that Lisa Hayes truly was the bigger fit. And speaking of Minmay and her fame, and let's talk a little bit about the songs because we can't do Minmay without talking about the songs. Unfortunately, due to copyright issues and restrictions, I can't play any of these songs. But I want to do kind of say a comparison of who has the better songs. Is it Robotech's Minmay or is it Macross Minmay? So let's talk a little bit about some of these songs, and I'll tell you some of my favorite songs of Lynn Minmay. When it comes to Minmay songs or which songs is better, who has the better Macross or Robotech, it's truthfully just a matter of personal taste. But just to give you some notable songs from Macross, My Boyfriend's a Pilot, which is a playful, flirtatious song that showcases Minmay's innocence and teasing nature. You have Xiao Pai Long, which is a folk style song that catches the Zentradi off guard, proving how alien music is to them. And then, of course, you have the big, big song, Do You Remember Love, which is the definitive anthem of Macross used in the 1984 movie. And this song symbolizes love, power to transcend war and destruction. And it's just one of those songs that just stays with you. Of course, you have My Friend, which is originally part of the series, captures the sweet innocence and hopeful tone of Minmay's character. And all of these songs are complete classics. I still listen to them to this day, and I know some of you who are huge Macross and Robotech fans, of course, you listen to it as well. Now, as far as the Robotech side of the songs, they also have some hits. You have My Time to Be a Star, which is just an English reimagined song from Minmay symbolizing her struggles with fame. You have We Will Win, which is the definitive anthem of the Robotech franchise, which you see and throughout the course of the Robotech franchise. Like I said, Lancer uses this song as well, and it's the climax of Robotech song used to inspire the human forces. But she also has two other tracks that I like, which is To Be in Love, and my favorite one, which I will talk about, is It's You. It's You was my favorite Minmay song of the Robotech series. And when it comes to Macross, it's definitely Do You Remember Love. But who has the better songs? Like I said, it's your own personal preference. But honestly, if you're looking for pure emotional depth and iconic status, I have to give it to the Macross Minmay songs. It takes the edge. Tracks like Do You Remember Love are more intricate and capture the true essence of the character and her relationship with Rick or Hikaru. And those songs feel more woven into the fabric of the original narrative of the Macross franchise. So we are going to wrap this up, my friends. In the end, Minmay is a very complex and, like I said earlier, a polarizing character. When you hear the name Lynn Minmay, some people have cheers, some people have bulls, and that could be due to the part of which series did you watch first? Did you watch Macross first? Where I find that Macross fans have a little bit more appreciation and love for her compared to Robotech fans who kind of still, you talk to Robotech fans, they kind of hate her because the way she appeared in Robotech was more self-centered, more selfish, more whiny, very naive early in the beginning, and it kind of she doesn't really grow till that ending moment where she just realizes, oh snap, I really do love Red, and but she still has some of that selfish uh, aspects to her. But who's the better version? Hands down, I'm gonna go with Macross Minmay. Minmay and Macross, I feel, is just way more fleshed out, way more developed, more mature for sure, and just a overall better character compared to the Robotech counterpart. But she's still an amazing female anime character. Whether you love her or hate her, Lin Minmay is an impact in the Macross universe. This is Justin from Otakus to Geeks.com. This has been the episode 7 of the Women of Anime. If we like what we did here, hopefully we earned your subscription. And if we did, please hit the like button, the subscribe button, and the notification bell, my friends. I'll catch you on the next episode of the Women of Anime. Peace, love, and happiness. Later days.